Welcome back to my world building project, Telor. Today, we'll be talking about the actual planet of Telor itself, which I call Saga. Here's an overview of Saga if you're to look at it from space. The immediately notable features is how the shades of green and plants in Saga tend to be slightly brighter and yellower than Earth. This is due to a different output of solar radiation and heat from Lux Virtum than our Sun. The plants of Saga have evolved a slightly different shade of green to be more efficient at collecting energy. Another feature is the moons of Saga. Yes, I know full well that having multiple moons is overdone in fantasy and science fiction to literal high hell. I mean, at this point, it's basically beating a dead horse. I have good reason for this. I've decided to intertwine the lunar cycles of these bodies with different working days and religious ceremonies for the peoples of Saga. There are a sizable 4 moons in Saga, 2 major moons, which are like our moon in size and composition, and 2 minor moons, which are extremely small, only a few dozen kilometers in length and height. These moons were formed early in the Saga's history when it was just a molten hellscape near the start of Lux Virtum's lifetime, and when Saga had much more mass than Earth. So, when a large Mars-sized object smashed into Saga, much like what happened to Earth, it ejected more material into space than what Earth had exhumed. This extra mass and molten rock resulted in 2 moons being formed instead of 1, like what happened with Earth. Then the 2 minor moons were captured asteroids from the S1 asteroid belt. The larger of the moons is Saferun, with a mass of 1.2 and a larger radius at 1.1 in our moon's masses and radii. This means that it is larger in every regard. However, it appears slightly dimmer in the sky due to the second moon, Mehrun, taking up more light and darkening each moon. Mehrun, unlike their larger twin, is actually smaller than our moon, with a slightly lower mass and radius. However, the moon is also extremely dense with iron and other minerals, leading to a white sheen or glimmer across its surface and a promising mining colony in the far future. The 2 moons each orbit Saferun and Mehrun respectively, meaning that in many cultures the smaller moons are seen as children of the larger moons. Each are called Cadel, which orbits Saferun, and Yedel, which orbits Mehrun. They are based on ellipsoids, which makes the math easier. Whilst they are both visible and larger than most stars or planets in the sky, sometimes they fall into either their host moons or one of the other moons' shadows. Many figures of gods of knowledge, secrets, tricksters, and underdogs are associated with or are the moons themselves. The Iridaean god of knowledge, Vathor the Scroll Keeper, is said to have Saferun as his avatar, his herald of a god of all things that have, are, or will come to be. It is said that from his high vantage point of Saferun, the greatest of the moons, he looks upon all things and records them in his ceaseless scrolls. Mehrun is literally countless interpretations. Some place it as a gemstone dislodged from Norn, the god of war's axe, in the war against the Worm Kings. Others say Mehrun is the shattered essence of an even older pantheon of gods. On rare nights, all moons are full and seen, which is when great revelry and merriment is had, as it is seen as a time of rest, when the eternal battle of the moons fighting the night, which means to consume them, is ended. This is how the waxing and waning of the moons is explained, as Urtulin, Lord of Night, wishes to swallow the moon's power and majesty for himself, according to the dwarves and men kingdoms. Nights when no moons are visible are seen as times of ill omen, when risky actions are not to be taken, and full moons are times of fortune and luck. All cultures of Telor find inspiration in the beauty and majesty of the great silvery moons hanging in the sky. And now, let's move away from the heavens, and then to the actual planet of Saga itself. The orbital mechanics of the planet Saga are quite different to Earth, with a whole year on Saga being 328.715 days long. This shorter time period is due to Saga orbiting 10% closer to Lux Virtum, as the star is cooler and less luminous than our Sun, resulting in a need for a closer orbit to sustain liquid water and carbon-based life. Now, due to the large impact event which created the moons early in the Saga's history, Saga has only 0.9 the mass of Earth, 10% less. Its density is also slightly lower. However, it is the exact same size as Earth. I did this I did this to make mapping out Saga easier. I could just input the scale bar of distances from Earth, and I'd be fine doing stuff because again, they're the same size. Those two factors have resulted in significantly lower gravity, and combined with the higher oxygen content, which I'll be covering later, means the Saga has larger trees, more trees, and much larger animals. The average human on Saga, male or female, averages at around 6.5 to 7 feet in height. The only reason no one notices this is because everything else is also 10% taller and larger, so a typical Saga human wouldn't even notice, because it's all in proportion. However, there are exceptions to this proportionality rule, mainly involving the speculative evolution side of things. Onto the atmosphere Saga. It is organized the same as Earth, with a troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere before tapering off into space. Due to the lower gravity of Saga, flight can be achieved easier, and so monolithic birds and flying reptiles come in flocks across the sky. Saga also has higher oxygen content, as I have said before, with trace amounts of ozone and methane. Seasons in Saga work slightly differently than on Earth. The axial tilt of the Earth is 24 degrees, while on Saga it is 22. That means that Earth tilts 24 degrees to create summer in the northern hemisphere and winter in the summer hemisphere, flipping in 6 months. On Saga, this tilt is not as extreme, only tilting 22 degrees. This means that the tropics are located 22 degrees north and south rather than 24 degrees, and the polar circles, when summer and winter is just day and night, are from 68 to 90 degrees north and south. Now here's a work in progress elevation map of Saga. Telor is the continent in the northwest, with the continents of Califcore and Viridis isolated in the eastern and southern hemispheres. The tectonic plates look like this, with 9 major plates and 4 minor plates, with tons of microplates in between them. The subcontinents of Arask, Odira, and Pandor are tearing apart and drifting from Greater Haldramar. Meanwhile, Telor is doing the opposite, about to smash into the continent in the next few million years, which will form a new gigantic mountain range. The climates on Telor are based in a simplification of the Köppen climate classification system. The interior of Haldramar tends to be extremely dry and cold, with barely anything living there. Only closer to the coasts is Haldramar a hospitable continent. Meanwhile, the ocean currents carry Teloran traders south to the hot lands of Odira and Ziriel. Telor itself has a mix of drier Mediterranean climates to the south, with wetter, humid subtropical and continental climates to the north. Marine or oceanic climates make up the Elderlands, Pool and Druid, with a lot, and I mean a lot of rain, with vast riverways and deep forests covering the borderlands. Finor is likely the most climatically diverse, ranging from the dry shrubland vineyards to fields of plump grains and tubers to the north. The mountains of Telor are old, ancient even. The Ice Spire Mountains, home to the frost-bitten nomads, are the tallest of Telor, standing black peaks stark against the white snow that tops them. A phenomenon similar to foehn wind in southern Germany happens here, with warm wind from the southern slopes of the ice spires passing through the mountains and losing its moisture, becoming hot against the usually cool air and causing a fell wind to pass over Fandrine wastes and Druid villages. The Fandrine and the Druid say that this is the result of the foehn wind, is the will of an evil spirit called Gwif Durka, a bringer of ill omen. Okay, so thanks for watching again. I suspect that the next video will be covering more of the politics, culture, and maybe even the history of Saga. Again, I've been getting a lot of positive comments recently, which really gives me the warm fuzzies. And you probably noticed that this video is a bit shorter than the rest of them. That's mainly because a lot of this stuff isn't really necessary to understand Telor. Well, all the astronomy stuff isn't really necessary either, but you know. And in general, I will be covering each individual climate and region and winds and all that good stuff in detail when I actually get around to making a video on each place. And I think that's it. Yeah, so thanks for all the nice comments, and that would be all. Thanks.